Is this inevitable? Are we merely soundtrack to a story already written, or are we composers writing a new score, charting a new course for a new destination? Our journey begins with a new awareness.
Problems cannot be solved at the same level of awareness that created them.
Our journey begins with knowledge.
If knowledge reveals danger, the solution is not ignorance, but wisdom.
Our journey begins with vision.
If we cannot envision the world in which we wish to live, we cannot work towards its creation. If we cannot place ourselves in it, in our imaginations, we won't believe it's possible.
So let us, for a moment, imagine that new world and place ourselves in it.
Can we envision a world with clean water, healthy land, and thriving creatures, or not? Can we picture a world that cultivates soil and nourishes people, all people? Instead of agribusiness, agriculture, putting healthy food on the tables and healthy people on the land. Can we imagine all of this or not?
Do we want efficient cities whose buildings power themselves or not? We could have undisturbed mountaintops, lush forests, clean, vibrant streams teeming with life, or not. The human enterprise could be fueled on sun, wind, and waves.
We could have a world without poverty and sacrifice zones. A world where healthy economies measure success by human well-being and gross domestic happiness. A world of enough instead of more.
Now, imagine that world in a box that you can give to your children. Does this sound utopian? It is not.
The thought of a truly sustainable world is new to many of us, but to many, many others, it is not. All over the world, they have already imagined what this means, what it looks like, and how to get there. They move there like mountain climbers, not reluctantly, but joyfully, climbing to a higher place, experiencing not sacrifice, but achievement.
Our canon of knowledge tells us all of this is possible. Science is one of the great achievements of all of humanity, and not only does it starkly illuminate our danger, it also lays before us unprecedented opportunity.
So what does our canon of knowledge, our science, have to say about reimagining our world? First, what do we understand? What do we know about our destination? Our study of natural systems tells us what we need to know. Like sustainable biological systems, an enduring, robust human system must be diverse, low input, no waste, and connected systems. Not separate energy, food, and economic systems, but an integrated ecosystem. And what do we know about our journey to this destination? We know that we have everything we need to begin. Our science tells us we have the knowledge, we have the technology, and we have the ability. We have all of this to achieve this destination. We know that the journey will not be solitary, but shared. Natural systems are closed and connected, and no one of us can go without the rest of us. We know the journey won't be short, and that we won't be coming back. We have been in an artificial wilderness, and we are going home. We know that ours is a journey of transformation, not repairing failed systems to limp along, but building new ones. Not more efficient cars powered by oil, but electric cars and mass transit powered by the sun. Not more efficient light bulbs plugged into coal, but more efficient lighting plugged into the sky. And not more efficient growing consumption, but steady state economies that divorce prosperity from growth. We know who will lead this journey and who will not. It will not be the leaders of nations wrangling in the international arena, but people comprising neighborhoods and communities. In my home state of Utah, policymakers continue to deny the science of climate change, but people, businesses, and farmers in our cities and our countryside prepare anyway. In the United States, even with a president who understands the risks of climate change, our national government has achieved very little. Domestic fossil fuel production, exploration, and use is higher today than it has ever been. And the drum yet beats for ever more growth and ever more consumption. It will not be corporate boards, but us. Apple, the world's richest company, today works for greener products and greater well-being for its workers, not because their corporate conscience demands it, but because their customers do. So at every step, it must be us. It must be us. It must be us pushing and pushing and pushing. At restaurants, ask where the food comes from. At work, where the garbage goes. At school, where does the power come from? Here in Monterey, your university has written sustainability into its mission statement. Imagine if all of our businesses and our churches and our universities did the same. Imagine if they committed to moving our public systems away from fossil fuels. Why haven't they yet? Because we haven't yet demanded it. Finally, we know this journey is underway. Worldwide, 13 countries now receive more than a third of their energy from renewable resources. For the first 3 months of this year, Portugal produced 70% of its electricity with renewables. And the nation of Bhutan gauges economic success not with gross domestic product, but with gross domestic happiness. And so that's what we know through science about our destination and about our journey. To move forward, we need only believe what we know. Finally, what do we know about ourselves? Because the path forward is not only about changing our technology, it is also about changing ourselves. It is, in fact, all about ourselves. But about ourselves turned inward and also about ourselves turned outward. Not us merely transforming our own lives. We must change the systems in our lives. We must transform the institutions in our lives. We should change our light bulbs in our homes, but we need to change the power plants in our communities. We should put local sustainable food in our refrigerators. We need to put it in our schools. Where do we start? 6 words. Pick something and make it yours. Pick something and make it yours. Pick something in your private life, that's to take ownership, but pick something in your public life, that is to make a difference. Are you a fashion designer? Can your designs be made with sustainable materials, without toxic dyes, by workers paid a living wage? And will you work to transform your industry? Are you a chef? Can you move toward local food, grown sustainably, without poisoning the food or the soil, and cultivated by workers paid a living wage? And will you work to transform your profession? Are you an architect or a builder? Can you move towards sustainable materials, creating buildings that power themselves and nourish rather than toxify the people inside? Will you work to transform your industry? Pick something and make it yours. You can do it right here at this university of yours, this amazing university, whose mission statement, as I said, now includes the construction of a sustainable society. You have made wonderful progress here at this institution, with local food, with students who are working to create a more livable community with bicycle paths and public transportation, and with more sustainable building. It's a great start, so pick something here and make it yours. Expanding your reach. 350.org is an organization on the front lines of the battle against fossil fuels. Right now, ground zero is the battle in the United States against the Keystone XL pipeline transporting Canada's tar sands to the Gulf of Mexico. Just this week, 11 cities have announced a complete divestment of investments in the fossil fuel industry. It's just the beginning, but it's grassroots. It is us doing this. The Natural Resources Defense Council is one of the most effective environmental organizations in the world. They force governments to enforce the law, and they take environmental criminals to court even when governments won't, and they win. There are many more organizations that you can become a part of. Activism is an intimidating concept for many of us. But there is much more to activism than marching through the streets. You can show up to a city council meeting, call a local legislator, pester the person who delivers your groceries. Whole support structures make real activism possible. Annie Leonard's Story of Stuff project has a change-maker quiz on the internet to help you determine where your talents are. Are you a street marcher, or are you an investigator, a networker, or a communicator, or an organizer, or a builder, or all of the above? All of them are needed for activism. If you visit our website at thecrossroadsproject.org, we've compiled lists of materials, videos, books, websites to help you move forward, to take a first step, to pick something and make it yours today. There is a perception, a misperception, that all of this transformation to a sustainable society is about less. This move to a new vision, though, is not about sacrificing quality of life. It is about enhancing it. It is actually about more. It's about more happiness, more well-being, more security. It's not about doing less, but about doing more. It's not about being less, but about being more. It is about doing different and doing better, but not about expecting less. It's about expecting more. There is a misperception of stasis, that nothing is happening, that the task is hopeless. But so much is in motion. Around the world, the efforts of others are often imperceptible to most of us, but they are beginning to overlap and to amplify one another. From 1 million solar rooftops in Bangladesh to wind powering the Great Plains in the United States, we have begun this journey. From putting people back on the land in California to sustainable, productive, organic farming in Africa, we have begun this journey. From microlending in India to Kimakul here at UDEM and in Monterey, we have begun this journey. None of this is yet big enough or fast enough, but a tide is rising, and just as there are tipping points in the climate system, so too are there tipping points in social systems. Like an iceberg which seems unchanging months or years, 4 months or 4 years, there are just below the waterline 1 million actions nibbling away. Until one day, the immutable iceberg, the whole system flips and becomes a Mexican Revolution or an American Civil War, women's suffrage, civil rights, a falling Iron Curtain, or a budding Arab Spring. Our task is to work in our lives, in our public lives, until the tipping point is reached. So does all of this sound overwhelming? Yes. Ultimately, though, our purpose this evening isn't to inform you, but this morning, isn't to inform you, but to move you to inform yourselves, to pick something and make it yours. Catastrophic impact, transform or collapse. Does all of this seem a little over the top? We have nice lives, you and I. I certainly do. Could things really be this precarious? It just doesn't feel like being on the edge. But like the bacteria in the lab dish, we are deceived. And our science screams at us. A few moments ago, we envisioned a new, more sustainable future in a box right in front of us that we can give to our children and all who come after. But there are two boxes. Neither of them yet exists, but we will create one or the other and bequeath it. How we live our lives from this day forward chooses which box. Before we leave this morning, then, it's important that we briefly peer over the edge into the other box, the box we are currently choosing to create and to pass along. To do this, we'd like to close the evening with a meditation of sorts. It's called The Machine. It takes just a few minutes and requires just a small measure of your cooperation. So if you would please, close your eyes. Close your eyes. Deep breath. Relax into your seats and into your minds. Eyes closed. Imagine. In a corner of your home is a machine. It produces the whole of your life: food, home, clothes, phones and cameras and computers. It produces music and books, musical instruments that you love to play. It produces your work and your vacation, your school and your sports, cars, bicycles, football, baseball, dancing. Airplane flights, x-rays, trips to the dentist, mangoes and pomegranate, agave and coffee, an evening at the theater. Each morning, when you rise, you must feed the machine. You keep the fuel in a room, locked away. The machine will run on anything. The fuel is delivered each night by others. You choose it. You choose to use it every day. You unlock the door, look around. You choose a small bird, alive and chirping. It looks at you quizzically. You grab it, you squeeze it, and you toss it into the fire. You grab another. You don't need the whole bird. You snap off a leg and you toss it in. You can use the rest tomorrow. You find plants, trees, nice fertile soil, anything beautiful. You stuff it into the machine by the armful. Your brother is there in the room. A little girl from down the street and her mother, and a child you don't even know. You take a lung from the little boy and the immune system from his mother. The child that you don't recognize, you throw her into the machine. There will be more tomorrow. And the machine needs fuel. You don't like feeding the machine these things, but mostly you don't think about it in any way. The fuel is not up to you. Agribusiness, grocery stores, coal plants, natural gas wells, big box stores, Madison Avenue, councils, legislatures, congresses, they're the ones who deliver the fuel to the room that you keep locked. You don't like it, but you don't do anything about it. You like your life, and the machine needs fuel. You close the door and lock it until tomorrow morning, when you will feed the machine again. Open your eyes. It's a difficult meditation. Believe me, we know. But it is critically important at this time that we no longer turn away from the simple truth of our lives. The machine is not a metaphor. Our lives, as they are currently manufactured by the societal structures in our world, visit enormous carnage upon our environment, upon each other, and upon ourselves. The good news is, this machine is falling apart. It doesn't like what we feed it, and neither do we. If we continue, it will cease to produce the lives we've come to know. Our task then is to transform this machine, to build a new machine that produces better lives running on different fuel and different operating principles. Our task is to build a machine consistent with the people that we see ourselves to be.